is a tutorial on how to do basic things in Cinema 4D. So first thing is to move around the scene, to like spin around, hold Alt on your keyboard, and when you click around your thing will rotate, and if you hit the scrolling wheel your camera will move around like that. You can also just go over here and just do it like that. So this is how you move the camera around, which will probably be pretty useful when you're doing things like that. When you're going to be doing things. So now I'll show you. This is your the part of Cinema 4D you'll be using when you're rendering things. So this is to render what's in the view. This thing, when you hold it down, you can render a region and choose other options that you don't need to know yet, because this is just getting started. And this is very important. This is the render settings. So under the output, you can choose the size, the height, well, the width and height. So like you wanted to make it 720p, it's going to be 1280 by 720, and you can choose if you're rendering just a picture, you'll use current frame, and you can choose which frame, like 1:1 or like 20:20. That'll be one frame. All frames or preview range, which is how much you have in a preview. Or you could go to manual and be like, I want to render from 10 to 20 frames. So that you will have a 10 frame, whatever you have in your perspective window or your camera. So this is what this does. Fields, that's if you know about movies and film and stuff. Some TVs take upper field first and some take lower field first. If you're on a computer, you're probably going to have to use none, because it's yeah, very descriptive. Okay, save. This is pretty important because when I first started, I would mess up my whole desktop because I had an image sequence selected. So you probably know TIFFs. It's pretty much like raw pictures. You can also use PNGs, JPEGs, and things like that. I would suggest you use QuickTime Movie because it renders with a empty background with the alpha channel. So, and to render with an alpha channel, you have to choose the selected. What that means is, if you have a cube and you want to render it, anything you see over here that is not a cube, it's going to be empty. So you don't need any green screening or anything like that. Because I've seen people put a green in the background and then render it as an AVI movie, and I'm like, why would you do that? And right now, if you'll hit this to render, it's not going to render anywhere because this is the file location. So you have to choose where to save it. There's also compositing project, so anti-aliasing. That is pretty important. So I use best, and minimum is 2x2, because what that does, if you play video games on a PC, you probably see that in the settings as well, anti-aliasing. So the higher it goes, the better. You don't need to know these. Okay, so this is what is probably good for beginning with Cinema 4D. Now let's actually import some by import I mean create some objects and see what everything does. So I like to keep everything in the mouse tool in the live selection instead of the move, because when I move objects I just still use that. Let me go through the tools first. This is the move, to move around, select things. That's what this does. The move tool moves things around. That's all it does. It just moves things around. This is the scale. What it does, it makes things bigger, smaller. That's what that is used for. And rotate. Everyone probably knows what rotating things mean. So let's start off with a cube. To get a cube, you just click on this cube. You have yourself a cube. So, like I said before, hold Alt to move around. So yes, this is indeed a cube. This is what it is. So this is a cube, and there are things here called segments. This is how many segments you would want for each thing. You can go up, down, and the higher you go, the much slower your whole computer will be running, because it will need to not render, but calculate all these things. And I usually go into Gouraud shading, I don't know how to pronounce it, in lines, so you could see. So see over here, when you zoom in, you see that it has lots of squares, and those are segments. So on the cube, anywhere like 5 will be fine, unless you're doing something really professional and you need a lot of segments. So here we have a cube. To get any different shape, let's move this out of the way using our mouse tool. So you have to hit the arrow to move things around. If you want a different thing, click and hold it. Now you see you have many more options here. So like landscape, figure, cone, and first thing anyone else does after a cube is a sphere. So, and I don't know if you can see from here, but the edges are pretty sharp. You can see how the edge is really sharp here. It's not like a ball that would perfectly be bouncing around. That is because of the segments. Like I said before, this the more segments, the more smooth the model will be. If it has like curves. This doesn't. It's a cube. You don't see anything here. It's all sharp. We'll go into making it smoother later. So in this sphere, if you decrease the segments, you can see how much sharper it becomes. And if you increase the segments, you can see how much smoother it becomes. So, you know, the smoother the model is, the better it'll be looking. So this is what we have for the sphere. Let's go on to the next shape, which I would say is pretty cool, and that is platonic. So this is like cool looking thing. You'd probably be using it for different things, and there's lots of options for it too, like the octa, the dodeca, icosa, whatever, and a bucky. So, and a tetra. So look, I just did some cool thing. So as you can see, you can increase the segments on this thing as well. So let's move this to the side. We have plenty of things to start with now. So I'll space it out a little bit more. So you can see you can choose a model by clicking on it, or choosing it here. So the next thing you might want to know is, okay, so you can see how they're in different in sizes. So let me choose this, the scale tool, and you can scale it up or scale it down. So this looks about right now. So let's move this down a little bit. So yep, this looks great. Next thing is the modeling. You don't want to just have a cube and be like, there you go, I'm a professional graphics designer, I made a cube. You could, if you have some original ideas with just a plain cube and rendering out on a black background in normal, no materials, but that's probably not what you want to do. Especially that this looks flat, this looks kind of flat, and this looks somewhat 2D because the render settings are not as good as you want them yet. So modeling. This, let me introduce you to some of the modeling things. So before you can actually do anything to anything, you have to have it selected. So here we have a cube selected. This means it's going to be using the points. Each, as you can see, each of these, where the lines intersect, it's a point. As you probably learned in math, lines intersect and they make a point. Then you can also have lines, which are the lines. Not points, but lines. Each line is separate when it connects to a point, like a line segment. So these are line segments. And the next thing is the polygons. So when lines combine together, anything in the middle of the lines is a polygon. Like over here you can see this is a square polygon. On this side there are 25 polygons. On this side there are 25 polygons. Because when we were making segments we chose 5 by 5. So we have 25 polygons inside. Before you can do anything to the model, you have to make it editable. When you make something editable, you can't go back and change the polygon, the amount of settings. You can't change the size this way. You'll have to be scaling it and manually changing the segments. So when you believe that you have everything correctly set up for your shape, make it editable. And my favorite way of modeling is with polygons when I started, so now I'm getting more into points and lines, points and edges. So I'll just go into some of the cool things you can make, and yeah. So when you have this selected, you can click and choose different polygons, or you can click and drag, but make sure you do have the live selection tool selected, because if you have the move selection tool, which I don't like it for, when you click you drag it away and yeah, you made something weird. It could be cool at first, but this is probably not what you're looking to do. So live selection tool, and I'll just choose these. When you hold shift you can choose multiple things, so I'll hold shift, and when you select something you don't want, when you hold control and you click on it, it will be deselected. So let's just select all these sides here. Oops. Be sure not to touch the arrows. So I selected these. So what now? Well, when you right click somewhere in the empty space, you get you get all the different things you can do with what you have selected. So you probably don't need these yet. The only thing you'll be messing around is these 5 different options. Bevel, which is like extrude, except it increases or decreases the size. Extrude inner, which you will probably love the most. Matrix extrude, which gets pretty confusing because you'll have to go to the settings and change things. And smooth shift, which is good for the edges. So let's choose extrude inner. So what that does, when you touch somewhere that is not a model and you hold it, you can see that it goes in and it comes out. Like, it gets bigger and it gets smaller, the selected size. So let's say I want to just make it a little bit smaller like this. There you go. That's all it did. It chose your selection to the whatever you just chose. Next thing is the extrude. What that does, it pushes the thing in or pushes the thing out. So when you hold, click and drag, you see that, whoa, this is pretty cool. Look at this. I already made something. So when I'm messing around with cubes, I usually like to push it in a little bit. Not too much. I don't want to go like this and push it back out. Push it in like this. So this looks pretty cool. Quite simple, but still pretty cool. Now when you right click, you can choose extrude inner again. You can extrude a little bit more. Extrude in here. And then you can just mess around a lot. You can create some pretty cool things. And so you can see you just made a cool looking thing. So here, if you mess around with a cube, you can see what you can do on the cube. Sphere is kind of fun, but this will be really exciting. So here we have a sphere. Let's make it editable like before. Choose polygons. And so if let's say you wanted to make like a Pokeball kind of thing, and you don't want to go around like this and just selecting it and taking it forever and then noticing that you messed something up and going to fix it. So let's say you don't want that, because that would mess everything up. There's a shortcut. When you hit U and L on the keyboard, it chooses a loop. So let's say you want to cut it in the middle somewhere. So let's choose this, this, and this. So you just chose right in the middle, all the polygons, 360 degrees. Also, let's say you kind of want to mess around and do it this way too. So here, here, here. So you got some pretty cool shape. You don't know what it is yet, but let's use what you learned before with the extruding inner and just extruding. So I don't want to really do anything with the inner ones yet. So let me extrude it out. So, whoa, look at this. This looks pretty nice. And then extrude inner, extrude it like that. I don't know why this got messed up. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that. Acting a bit weird. So sometimes you'll get some weird things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take these because I just got a better idea. Extrude inner, extrude a little bit, and make it go in. Extrude a little bit more. There you go. So you did something with the sphere. This looks pretty cool. Probably not the best thing that you wanted, but still, this is pretty nice. Now let's go to the platonic. So we made it look like a triangle, and you can choose a different amount of segments. I thought this would look cool with whatever I'm going to do right now. So let's make it editable. Go to polygons, and I'll choose the inner things that got created. I'll keep it on the bottom, not selected. So we got this. Now when we go to extrude inner, they extrude like this, which I think would be pretty cool. So let's go in like that. Extrude it in. Actually, this would be pretty good. Next thing is, I wanna have these glow eventually. So I'm gonna go to select, and I don't do it this way, but I kind of have to for the tutorial. If I don't find it, I'm just gonna go my own way. Okay, I'm just gonna go my own way. Yeah, okay, so I'll just go straight into materials right now because we're kind of done with modeling here. So to create new material, you can go to create, new material, or just double click in this area. Double click. And I've made a new material. I'm gonna call it I'm just gonna call it white. I misspelled it, I wrote Q white. Whatever, doesn't make a difference. Double click on it, and we have remember, there's no such thing as completely plain white, so I'm just gonna keep it a little bit here. This would look fine, and I'll choose reflection. But this is, I didn't name it metal, so I'm gonna lower down to around 4%. That looks pretty good. So we have a white one. There we go. Renamed it back to white. And another material that I'm going to call blue glow. So I'll open this up, go to color, click on here, and select a nice bright blue color. Then I'm going to go to the luminance channel. What luminance is, it's like brightness, not like brightness, it's like glow, like light. This is what it is. Like a luminant light, which means like a bright light, something like that. So I'll change this also to a bright blue color. So this looks pretty cool already, not even being anywhere. And what I want to do is I want to take this material, the blue light, and move it onto the orange selected polygons. So now you can see all the orange that was selected became white. Became blue. Sorry. I also might want to go to the sphere and do that, the same to it. And if you accidentally clicked somewhere and you're like, oh no, I messed it up, you can always click again and go and click on them again. So it was here and it was in the back. I mean, no one's gonna render from the back, but who cares? You're not gonna be able to see this in the render anyway, but there you go. Drop it on here, and anything that you chose is in here. Let's go back to the cube. And I'm thinking of the insides here. I think this will look pretty nice. So remember, you can always click and drag. Let's go ahead and choose some of these. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail with this. There we go. This looks fine. Now click and drag it on here. So here we have 3 different things. Let me move them closer together because we're not going to be modeling anymore, so we don't need as much extra space. So let me put this all in the center. This looks about right. So now when you hit render, you can see that it looks really bad. There's nothing cool about it, and that's because we don't have any lights set up. There's nothing making any shadows. We don't have anything casting reflections, so this isn't looking any good at all right now. So also, we don't have the white material applied to the other objects. So what we need to do now is just apply it on top, and then take our blue and put it behind, well, it actually is on top, but to us it looks like it's behind the white material. So now it's on top. When you render it, it still doesn't look any good because, again, we don't have anything in the scene. So let's make a new camera. You can just click on it and it will choose whatever is in view right now. So now when you move out of the way, you can see that there's a camera sitting here. And to go to the camera, there's a little button that looks like, I don't know if I can't zoom it in here, but it's like a black square. And when you click on it, it goes to your camera. So this is really nice. Now let's go and make some lights. I'm going to make a new light. I will click and hold and choose area light. And I will back it up a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. There are squares, orange squares, and if it's not working for you, you can go into the details and manually fix it right here. So I'll just make it 600 by, I don't know, 300. And I will copy and paste it, Control C, Control V. Then we'll move one light here, and then the other light here. I will take the rotation tool, and I will rotate it so it's facing. So it's going to be facing the thing. I'm going to go to one of the lights, go into General, Shadow, Area. I'm going to click on the second one, and do the same thing. So it's in General, and it's under Shadow, and you choose Area if you can't find it. So let's go to our camera and take a look at what it looks like now. So as you can see, the render time, it's a little bit bigger now, but you can see that it looks much nicer than it did before. You can see the blue color is much cooler looking, but the shadows might be a little too hard. So let's go to our light again, choose the shadow to soft, shadow maps soft, and do it to the second one as well. Now, what I'm thinking of doing is going into the settings, effect, global illumination. And what that means, it will take anything that has a luminance channel, and it will think of it as a light. So let's go to global illumination. Sorry, and I mean everything is fine for starting, so you can keep that there. And if you turn off the lights, these check marks When you turn that off, it means you won't see it. So when you render it, you can see that the blue is casting the lights. It thinks it's light, so it's making things. And if you want it to be brighter and be shinier, you can go into the settings of it, go to the luminance, and increase it. So let's make it 400 just to see what it's going to make when you render. So when you render, you can see it's super bright. You can see the reflections now in the white material, and this is looking pretty cool. And you can even go to like 800 and just go crazy and just mess around with everything and do whatever you want. But this tutorial is about trying a little bit of everything. So let's turn the lights back on. Go to our lights. I'm going to change the intensity to 40% on one and 40% on the other. Also, no light is completely white. It either goes a little bit colder or a little bit warmer. So the one that we have here, the one on the right, I'm gonna go into the color. I'm gonna go into the orange and choose just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. Now on the other one, I'm gonna go to the colder colors like the blues and choose a little bit of that as well. Like in movies, in color, when you're doing color correction, in like action shots, you might notice that it's green, like a greeny tint to everything. When also a lot of movies use warm and blue colors mixed together to make a nice looking render. Well, not render, a nice looking color correction. So that's kind of what we're going for here. So when you hit render, you can see that it has a warmish tint on this side and a colder tint on this side. Maybe you don't see it as well, so let's change the intensity to 60 on one and 60 on the other. So let's render and take a look. So as you can see, this is what it looks like right now, but you don't see any reflections. And we all know that you want reflections. You want nice looking reflections. You want cool looking things. So this is where you go back to modeling. Let's go to the cube. Make sure you uncheck your camera so that you won't be moving your camera around. Let's go in here. Let's go in line. That's when lines come in. So does UL work for it too? UL works. Alright, so hit UL on your keyboard and choose the edge. Hold shift, choose all the edges possible. By edges I mean anything on around the thing, not every single line, because that won't be really good. It would kind of look weird. So right click and choose, trying to find it, bevel. Now when you click and drag it, you can see that it makes like an edge here. Now I'm going to hit Control Z and also subdivision it by 2. So now you can see it makes it, there's more subdivisions on here. So if we render it right now, you might notice there would be slight reflections on there because there are more subdivisions on the edge, and you can see that the light has a variation when it goes on the thing. So that's kind of what we want. So let's also go UL and choose this one because that's what we see, and do the same thing. Bevel, just a little bit. Just a little bit. You don't want to go over the top with it. So maybe you could do it 2 times, maybe even 3 times, just because it will look pretty cool. So let's see what it looks like. So there you go. You can see that there are steps going here. That's because I was just messing around with settings, not with the settings, but with a thing. But I think this looks pretty nice. This looks pretty interesting. It looks like steps. Let's go to the sphere and go UL again and maybe choose this, choose this, choose this, and this. It goes into here too, but I mean, I don't really care about this right now. So let's go back to bevel and extrude it, just so it goes like that. And I kind of like the way this makes it here. I think that looks pretty cool. I wonder if I can go to polygons. No, I can't do that. Well, alright. So, and also let's go to our photonic UL, and this won't work the same way. Sadly, yeah, it's going to be choosing random things. So just hit the mouse tool and just click on the edges. Or remember, if you choose something you don't need, you can hold control and get rid of it. So this is what I need because that's what I see. So let's go back to bevel and extrude it. So now when you go to our camera, we can render it and we can look at what is happening. So now you can see there are much nicer reflections over here. You could see it on here the most. And maybe I'll just go to the white color settings and increase the reflection to 10. So when I render, I might see a little bit more. So now you see a little bit more details, but still it's not fancy. And that's because it doesn't have anything to reflect it off except these lights, which are probably not the best choices for making different reflection things. So here's what you can do now. You can hold this, which looks like a random floor, which is kind of what it is, and choose Sky. Now right click on Sky, go to Cinema 4D Tags, Compositing. So Cinema 4D Tags, Compositing. Now we'll hit on it and uncheck Seen by Camera, because you don't want it being seen by camera. Now make a new material. Double click on it, uncheck Color, and uncheck Specular. Go to Luminance and check on Luminance. So you have this looks fine. Even though the resolution is really low, I suggest you having pictures that are at least 2000 pixels. Otherwise, your reflections are going to look really low quality, unless you have blur on your reflections, which that would be fine. So now take that material, let's give it a name, call it HDRI, and throw it into our sky. You won't see anything happen because we made it not visible. But when you render, you are going to notice not much because we need more reflections. Let me just go and make it 50 so I could actually see something. And when you render it, you should see, there we go. Now you see that there are really cool looking reflections. Your render turns out pretty nice. You don't see much on the triangle because it's mostly flat. You don't see much variation. So that's what it looks like. And spheres look the best because they're very round. You get to see much reflections, especially of the square that is on the right over here on the side. So I want to kind of make this darker, so I'll just intensity of the lights to 20 and the intensity of the glow to around 250. So let me take a look at this, and there we go. It's a bit darker. I think it looks nicer, so there you go. This is what this looks like. Now if you want to go ahead and render it to do some post work or just upload it to your DeviantArt, Facebook, whatever, go to your settings, go to your save. You chose where to save it, like we did in the beginning. I want to make this one picture. One picture. I'll choose JPEG. Actually, I'll choose PNG. JPEG's very compressed. I don't like that. I don't need an alpha channel because I'll be just showing you right now. And when output, make sure it's one frame, like current frame, or else it's gonna mess everything up. The picture's gonna go all over the place. You're not gonna like it. we'll go into sequence rendering later, PNG sequences and stuff. So yeah, now that you have that ready, click the middle button. What that will do, will render the thing into the location, and the name will be the name you saved it at and the frame that is saved at. So here you go. This is the thing. Hopefully you found it helpful.